Hey guys, I'm Saz from Saz Speaks. This video you're about to watch is a conversation me and a buddy of mine here at school had about political violence, what it entails, the statistics behind it, and all of that stuff. Really, actually, especially after the murder of Charlie Kirk. But this is just like our opinions and takes on it. Yeah, enjoy. Okay, the source we're using for this is Cato Institute. We'll put the picture of the chart we're looking at specifically up. It will be linked in the description, all that. But what it's claiming is that left-wing political terrorism is at an all-time 30-year high. But what it's really showing, that's what the title is, but what it's really showing is that allegedly right-wing political violence is significantly more than left-wing political violence uh, over the last 30 years.
Yeah, so I've looked at this source myself, and I actually was really interested in that because that really doesn't seem accurate if you add up all the things that have happened the past few years. So I went and looked into the sources of these various sources that were used, um, and I was interested in finding out that there was a lot of crimes that were committed or acts of terrorism, as they define it, that were not listed on there. That um, I was surprised would either be listed, the crimes would either be listed as other, so they wouldn't be labeled as right or left wing. There's also the occurrence where the guy who said "we got a Trumpy," shot him in the head. That didn't go towards the stats either. And then there's many more that you can account for.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is like the timing is super important. And what this article, and I think a lot of like people and influencers on the left tend to do, like correct me if I'm wrong, is just like kind of glaze over like the timing of those things. So another thing they didn't include in this report is like George Floyd, like the riots that happened after that. And I don't know how you could not consider those political violence. They're saying like, regardless of what you think, like the Black Lives Matters protests caused destruction, and the basis of the destruction and why they were protesting it was to promote democratic ideals.
And more importantly, it was to make a point. Like it wasn't just some one-off crime. Like there was a political ideology that was pushing these attacks. So you can't just say that these were one-off things. These weren't part of left-wing or ideology. Um,
It's the pattern that recurs.
yeah, it's a little ridiculous, to be honest.
Um, and it's not to say that one-off things can't happen. Like you said, like Aaron Danielson, the guy that was shot for like the "we have a Trumpy," bang, shot him in the head, he's dead. Like that's like a one-off thing. But I think the point we're trying to make is they aren't consistent. Well, I guess they are consistent in not counting either type. But what they're really inconsistent of is like they'll count those kind of acts on the right, but not on the left,
Yeah,
which is just, I mean, if you want a fair argument like that, that's not how you're going to do it. So, what I kind of want to go through is, well, I got in a debate, I guess you could call it, more of like a virtual shouting match, I think I would describe it, with one of my professors about this. Um, both like the article itself, like whether it's credible or not, who published it, and then also like just it branched off into all different sectors of politics. So I think we're gonna go through that a little bit. So obviously by now you've seen the graph we're looking at. Um, First thing I think is always important, regardless of what media you're looking at, is like who collected the data that's being like shown and what's like the purpose behind it. That's the first question I asked. I said like, who collected the data for this chart? Simple question. The response I received was right-leaning Cato Institute. Why? Did you hear something different from the news media you consume? Trolling or not, the professor's claim is that like the media came from the right, so I should believe it. Obviously, I mean, you don't just believe everything you see. Like
No,
you gotta,
absolutely not. And I mean, it doesn't matter who it came from. The idea to distrust something at first glance is very important for anything we do. Obviously, there's an extent where it can be too extreme, but I think to some extent you have to make sure that what you're looking at is like credible, and what you're looking at is not too inflamed. I think a lot of these articles are posted because they want people to believe what they want them to believe, and I think um, I've noticed that with a lot of things, just fact checking. Even certain professors I have within my school's DEI courses, I've noticed that they say things that are completely just not based in reality. And I think that it's important that we look up the things that we're told with like honest research and trying to find like these .gov and .edu sources, because it's really hard to find like credible information without doing that, I feel.
yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, .gov and .edu sources are going to be obviously just like inherently like you can trust them a little bit more. I still think even then, just finding like raw data is the always going to be the best way to go because you can interpret it for yourself. There should be no biases with it. You just have to make sure it's collected in the correct
That's
way.
kind of what I was talking about, but like I'm talking about from like finding data from .gov. Form your own opinion. That's like the biggest thing. Like that's what I'm kind of trying to say, because like these sources usually have just data, and they won't just tell you like what they think that this. They won't interpret it for you. You should really look at it, interpret it yourselves, and really have like a educated understanding of what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving on. He continue. My professor continues to say like the White House promoted this data. Obviously, the White House being a conservative administration, like he's assuming that I'm going to agree with what it says. So I said back, I think it's important we see what's included in this information. We've already kind of gotten into it, like what's not included. My professor just kind of went off on a tangent, said that you have to like assume that people who are experienced or like experts know what they're talking about. So I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but like just because someone's an expert doesn't mean they're correct. I mean, that's kind of like how science actually evolves, is you think one thing's right and then like 20 years later it's proved wrong. I think political science is no different. But also just like, I don't even think that's the point. It's the point is what we just said, like make sure the information is valid and like the information can change. And
Yeah, and I mean everyone says trust the experts, and I think like to some extent that is true. You need to have someone to trust, otherwise you kind of get nowhere. But I think to some extent, if the research is not being shown and there's nothing backing up what the experts or the so-called experts are saying, you have to really look into this stuff, because from my from my viewpoint, I'm seeing all this left-wing violence, and I'm really like keeping up with the news. It's not like I'm watching like things that are like biased towards that. And the right wing violence is just so minimal in comparison. Like it's just so improportional that it makes me question these things, because it's what I'm seeing in my own life. Um, it's not really what I'm being told. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I look into these things. You have to just really like understand yourself what's going on, not what other people are saying.
yeah, and like circling back to like the experts issue, like there's certainly times where it makes sense to like listen to experts. Like if I'm going to a doctor, like I obviously, if I'm having an injury or an ailment, whatever, I'm going to trust what the doctor says. I don't know medicine like that. Like I'm going to trust that. But I can still go and do my own research, be like, well, like I heard the side effects of this medication are X, Y, and Z. So you can still be knowledgeable but not be an expert in that field, and make sure that the experts are doing their job correctly.
And yeah, and even in my own life, like you trust doctors, right? But like there's some things that like you might not know, or you might be uneducated about, and they could have helped with. For example, I had a pet cat that had got vaccinated, and the cat got vaccinated for something that it actually already had. And I'm in no way anti-vax like at all, but this is just an example. My cat got vaccinated for something that it actually already had, and I guess it weakened his immune system or something of that sort, and it actually killed my cat. So I think these are like things that you have to like. You're kind of just trusting the expert. They're saying get this vaccine or whatever, and you kind of like you got to look into the stuff you're doing. Now, obviously, I think most vaccines are good for you. I'm not really saying that at all. I'm just talking about more onto the point that you can't just trust the experts. You got to look into this stuff before you're doing it, because real harm gets done, and that's what people don't understand. Like real harm is happening to people and like two groups of people because that people are uneducated and they think that they're doing righteous things, but they're not.
Yeah, another very good point. Okay, continuing into the discussion I had with this guy, this professor, man. He, what do you do?
He has this like a what is it, asphyxiation?
I just call it a hard on personally, but for AI.
For AI, yeah.
What I would do, asphyxiation is probably the proper term. But I responded. My main gripe with the information on the table was that, like in 2024, I could think of more than the 3 acts of like left wing, like terrorism or political violence, whatever you'd like to call it. I could think of more than 3 off the top of my head. So I listed them for him, and he responded with a AI generated. Like I actually read through it all yesterday, but it was such gibberish. He even included the question at the end of like, do you want to know more? But basically, I laid out the 4 points. He responded with that, and I said even the points like within the AI were incorrect. 2 of the points were contradictory. I need to back up. This is how the AI was distinguishing political violence and terrorism from each other. Honestly, they're pretty much the exact same thing, because if you're committing terrorism, it's like a means to change political landscapes. But that aside, and it got this knowledge from CSIS. So this is how it's determining left-wing terrorism versus political violence, even though they're really just like the same thing. Its bullet points were use of threat or premeditated violence or a plot, not merely a protest or vandalism, unless it crosses a threshold. It does not define what that threshold is, which is very interesting because it really just allows them to not include any like vandalism. So George Floyd protest, I'm going to throw a brick through a window, and that's not counted. That's pretty ridiculous. Or a pro-Palestine where you're spray painting graffiti on walls and vandalizing, someone else's property. That's not counted.
Or the anti-ICE protests in Los Angeles. Waymos are getting burned. The self-driving cars are literally just like burned to crisp and destroyed and vandalized.
Correct.
Where's that?
So that was the first bullet point. And then the second bullet point was intent to create psychological impact or influence policy or political power. So like they contradict each other, because if you're committing an act of violence, or it could even be a peaceful protest, in this case we're looking at like the violent parts, or like vandalism, destruction of property. If you're doing those things, it's to create a psychological impact or to influence the policy that you want implemented.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that to my professor. He said, what's wrong is that? Does it bias the sample to one side over the other? Well, yes, as we just laid out, it does definitely. Because they're all left-wing ideas. If you're protesting for something,
yeah, and you think about like not to divide us, but if you look at the protests or the other things on the right side, you see after Kirk dies, we have a candle lighting and people coming together. It's almost like a religious undertone to it. There was no riots. There was no attacking left-owned businesses or random businesses or burning of anything. There were memorials put up of that were like these beautiful different things like spray painted on wall like murals, and they were just all
Consensually, not just
yeah,
vandalized.
yeah, consensually. There was no vandalism until they were put up, where they were just mutilated, all of them. And I think that's really like telling and kind of honestly disgusting to look at.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was echoing the same thing like the week after. Like, regardless of what side you stand on, like, political violence is violence and needs to be condemned. Not everyone was saying that, but like a majority on both sides were saying that. But I think it's just more common to see it from the left, which like isn't supported in like all these documents that are coming out, which is just kind of ridiculous and like a testament to like I think what the media's goal is, and that's to push its own agenda, which is a scary thought.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at like real sources, like we have, I found a government source from, I think it was like the medicine.
Yeah.
What was it? I can't fully remember. I have to check. But it was showing the data of all the crime within the last. It was from 2010 to 1960, I believe, or something like that, or roughly around there. And it was showing all the acts of political violence. And if you look at it, uh, it was showing me Islamic Islamic crime, right wing and left wing violence.
Which is kind of strange to separate it like by that.
Well,
in
there were
itself.
more bullet points, but these were like the key ones. And if you look at left wing and right wing, the right wing within that time period was around a little over 4,000. Was a little over 4,000 acts of violence, and then if you look at the left wing, it's actually 32K. So if I could, or something around there, 32,000. It's a little outrageous to claim that the left wing is not disproportionately more violent than the right.
And that's what we mean when we say like find a edu or .gov like with just cold like facts,
Yeah.
and then you can interpret them for yourself. If you can somehow make it out that that means left wing is less violent, I mean, you can try. I don't know how that's going to really go over. It doesn't make a lot of logical sense, but you could do that if you wanted.
Yeah, and I actually have respect for that. Like, if you still come to that conclusion looking at that data, I have respect that you did your own research and you do that. What I don't have respect for is these people who they're in echo chambers of thought, and they don't have their ideas challenged by looking at these like real cold hard facts. Now, I always appreciate getting sources like it was the CSIS. I actually found it. It was
that in the Cato.
It was the Center for Strategic and International Studies. I appreciate this stuff challenging my thoughts, because when I first look at that and then I see that this data proves to be true, then I would believe that the right wing is more violent. I would believe that I'm getting kind of almost indoctrinated into believing that the left is more violent, with like not like I'm in like this kind of minority not seeing this stuff. But when you look at the data, like the real data, like it's not really showing that. And I've never seen in my personal life, I've honestly, like in my own actual life, like I've seen many crimes from the left in person. Like, this is just unrelated to the known facts, but in person I've seen many violent leftists, and I've never seen a single right-wing person in my life commit an action of hatred or attempt of political violence. And living in Los Angeles, I mean, it's just disproportionate. It's just
Yeah, he just like wants clarification on like why are they separating the different acts of violence, should they count together? And like, yes, they should count together because you're destroying stuff, being violent in nature, to promote left ideas. Again, I mean, check this out. I mean, just an essay straight from ChatGPT.
Which I guarantee you he didn't even read, by the way.
No, there's no way, because I referenced it when I mentioned the bullet points that were contradictory, he didn't respond to that. I assume he had no idea what I was talking about because he didn't read his own AI thing.
Yeah.
He asked how research on right-wing incidents missing from the data was coming, which of everything he said, that was probably his most valid point. I actually didn't like do a whole lot of research into like right-wing incidents that were missing from this. But I mean, if I had to guess, like, there's no way they're like equal to the left-wing ones missing because
and regardless, for everything on the study, right wing and left wing, that the number that was presented was an extremely small case of like crimes that were committed.
Yeah.
I mean, you just looking at that number, you say there's 32 acts of left wing terrorism, or also for the right wing. If you just look throughout the years, like these are very small numbers being presented. You have to wonder like how much of this is actually happening. Like, why is that such a small number?
Because there's more than that.
There's something missing.
You go to one protest and you're going to see 20 people spray painting something that should be 20 acts right there.
Yeah.
But it's not reported like that. Okay, this is where it gets really kind of like disturbing in a way. He responded to me. He said, "I will share a secret with you about my views on political violence."
It's secret, but he's posting it on his Facebook.
Our class is run through Facebook. Yes, it's run through Facebook. So it can be that secretive. Just read the whole thing? Yeah, I'm going to read the whole thing because I feel like it needs context, even though he doesn't give a whole lot. So responding to my last message, he said, "I'll share a secret with you about my views on political violence. If anything Trump claimed was true about the election, January 6 riots," whole different issue. Going back to his message, if anything Trump claimed was true about the election, referencing like it being rigged and all that, January 6 riots would be the bare minimum I would hope to occur in response. But it was a lie believed by violent morons. I don't have a problem with political violence. I do have a problem with conservatives opportunistically clutching their pearls about left-wing violence when the history is so glaring. And now they are saying trans people are disproportionately more likely to murder people. Dark times right now. What I get out of this is he's covering his eyes and throwing darts and hoping something sticks. Like he wants to score points. And
well, I mean, let's actually respond to it. So yeah, what's the first one he says?
If anything Trump claimed was true about the election, January 6 riots would be the bare minimum I would hope to occur in response.
Okay, so, well, what is this arguing? Because like, is he just trying to say?
He's saying if the. Why did you say that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even fully sure why I said that. We have to get the context of this.
What my guess is, and this is just a guess, he's referencing Trump said 2020 election was stolen. That's why Biden was elected, and that's why the riots occurred. So he's saying if that were to be true, he would hope that like the people of the United States would actually rise up. And
so he's condoning political violence in that situation, if you consider that violence.
Regardless, I mean, hurting like people in the line of duty, not good at all. I'm saying in terms of severity, like they're not equal. But it's weird because there's like a slippery slope. Like I was talking with my dad yesterday, and he said like civil war, like you would condone that political violence, right? It's political violence. You're trying to change the system. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh no, you condone the civil war. So he's saying like if the election was truly rigged, then having political violence is a good thing. Like, I guess I think you would want to exhaust every single peaceful option first. Professor's view is that if stuff is really bad, like shit's really hitting the fan, like political violence is okay. Or not political violence, but like riots.
No, that is what he's saying. Yeah, he believes January 6th was violence, so he's saying political violence is okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is honestly disgusting. I mean, honestly, you know what? I would argue there because these people genuinely believe that and it's not right, but they believe that their freedoms are going to be taken away based on what someone's saying. Like if they feel like their vote doesn't have power anymore, and they really believe that the January 6th election. I understand where that response comes from. Um, so I wouldn't hope that they do that, but I can understand where they come from in that space or realm.
Yeah, I think, like I said, like exhaust the peaceful options before you go.
Yeah, and I mean, before even any options, you look things up for yourself. I mean, yeah.
Okay, so next line, but it was a lie believed by violent morons. I guess we kind of covered that. Look up the evidence for yourself. Then he says, I don't have a problem with political violence. I mean, I guess we just talked about that too.
Yeah,
Not having a problem with it is.
I mean, just saying that as a general statement is pretty. I think that's pretty gross.
And not even like.
And it's not even productive.
Yeah.
Like it's not even productive. Like when they killed Charlie Kirk, just hundreds of people. I mean, this is honestly what erupted in this podcast. And I think just like all these people coming out and trying to be more outspoken, I think is the rights form of fighting. Because if I feel like once talking exhausts and there's no more talking, that's when violence happens.
Okay, his next line is, I do have a problem with conservatives opportunistically clutching their pearls about left-wing violence when the history is so glaring. I don't know, I feel like we're talking in circles a little bit, but like, if that's what the left needs.
The history is glaring. I mean, this guy's looking at numbers. You could actually look at the actual cases. There's case by case. You can read them and then decide for yourself what you think, if that's considered left wing or right wing. And I fully do believe that this guy wouldn't be able to attribute any of them to left wing. If you ask a lot of these left wing guys what they constitute terrorism or they won't accept these people as left wing. They'll kind of like find a way to detach them from the actual problems rather than take accountability and say, yes, this is left wing, and then you got to address the actual problem itself, which is, I believe, to be just believing media at first glance, which is what this professor is doing.
Yeah. What's the next one? Oh, and then just again another shot in the dark. And now they're saying trans people are disproportionately more likely to murder people. Honestly, it really had nothing to do with what we were talking about. But I want to make an episode just on that.
I think this is him subconsciously kind of pushing to like his belief of why it was okay that Charlie Kirk died. I think that's what that was, subconsciously saying that that's why it's okay for people like Charlie Kirk to get shot.
Because when I saw a lot of online, like right after, it was like he wanted like guns, like he was pro Second Amendment, so this is just like karma. That's like a lot of what I saw. But I like the clip of him saying like there are unfortunately like sometimes necessary deaths to protect rights, and like people aren't going to use guns correctly. And then what he would mention is like trans people having guns. Like it's a whole different issue. That's why I want to do a different episode on it. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like you said, shot in the dark to try and like subconsciously push some of the blame elsewhere is what I got out of that.
I do believe, because you look at the statistics, I mean, transgenderism does come with a whole other set of other, I believe, mental illness. And it is a mental illness because you believe something that you're not, whether you think it's natural or not, or if you think it's okay to be accepted. I think it's okay to accept that, but I don't believe that we can just look at that and say that's a healthy thing and a thing that like anyone can be ascribed to and have it be normal.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll do another episode, I think, strictly on that, because I think it's a lot deeper topic than I think people are led on to believe, and there's a lot of issues with it. But yeah, we'll get into that.
I think we should.
And yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up here. I actually didn't have another response after that. It was more AI
responses.
More AI responses. But what I generally get out of this is like media not reporting stuff correctly. I think that's important thing number one.
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
I think actually being able to have the discussion yourself and not relying on either like bullshit claims of or like facts. Like they're just not facts. They're just wrong.
I mean, it's fine pulling up facts that you believe to be true. I don't have a problem with that. You don't learn that way, but he's not even pulling up these facts. He just copy and pasted from ChatGPT. So, I mean, you're really debating with a robot, and then he's trying to throw in his response every now and then.
Correct. So you should be able to substantiate it.
Yeah.
And that was my point number 3 is actually have the conversation. Don't have a robot do it for you. Because I mean, everyone should be like able to voice their own opinion and like actually think it through for themselves, because otherwise like nothing gets done, nothing gets changed, and sometimes change is needed. A lot of it's like it's not up for debate, but you can debate about it.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to look at it.
So
all right, well,
we'll wrap it up there.
That's gonna be it.
Trying to cover yourself with it. It's like bad manners.
Bad manners.
I don't know.
I just call it a hard-on personally. He said, "What's wrong with that? Does it bias the sample to one side over the other?" Who is whistling? Okay.
What's up?
What are you guys doing?
Podcast. Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Do you guys already eat?
No, we'll go eat in like 10 minutes.
All right, bet.
Whoa. Word soup.